Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the Warriors of Chaos, going to be taking on the green skins. So let's go ahead and jump straight to the army composition. I've got a Chaos Sorcerer Lord Lore of Shadows up on this dragon here. Let's go ahead and look at the spell loadout. We've got Enfeebling Foe, Penumbral Pendulum, just these two, as well as, of course, the Dragon Breath. Penumbral Pendulum I find is very good against the greenskins. In particular, helps clear out light armor infantry very well, and if you overcast it, it'll even do pretty decent damage to armored infantry like these Black Orcs. Of course, being a Chaos Sorcerer Lord, he can go on a dragon as well, giving him massive AP. He has decent combat stats, which is where the Enfeebling Foe comes in. You can pop that on an opposing character or monster or whatever, and then the dragon will have a lot easier time trying to duel it. So, yeah, pretty decent. The greenskins, it can take some air power. Azag in particular could be pretty scary. This guy's not quite fast enough to keep up with him, but at the same time, you know, you could potentially bring Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma with him as well to get that slow, and with the Smoke and Mirrors and the Evasion, maybe you could keep up with Azag, and then pop that Enfeebling Foe to beat him. So there is some potential for counterplay there. In terms of the infantry line here, we've gone all sword and board, with 5 units of Marauders and 2 sword and board chosen. So I go with the defensive infantry here just because I'm going with more of a hammer and anvil style tactic. Not really trying to win with the front line so much as hold and let my Chaos Knights with lances do the work. We've got 2 groups of them, one on this side and one on the far flank, backed up by 4 units of Marauders, 2 here and again 2 on the opposite flank. Let's go ahead and take a look at this green skin force here. He's got a front line of Orc Boys with some chevrons, and we'll go over this later, but with the chevrons, these guys do have pretty solid combat stats. We've also got a few units of Black Orcs, 2 units of Black Orcs, and the Crimson Killers, which I'll talk about these guys in the end game as well. We've also got an Orc Boar Chariot, Grimgor Ironhide as the Lord, Orc Shaman with Foot of Gork and Fists of Gork, and the Broken Tusk Mob. So not the worst greenskin army in the world, but in particular I'm not the biggest fan of Orc Boys. In general, I haven't found them to be super cost effective in multiplayer. They're a decent unit early game in campaign, but just overall not the best unit in multiplayer. Even when you juice them up with chevrons, I generally find they're not super cost effective. Black Orcs, on the other hand, are very good in this matchup and are always a solid pick. The Orc Boar Chariot too is kind of a niche pick. If you have the micro to get it done, can definitely do some work. Grimgor Ironhide himself, I believe he has some Orc Airboys as well, who we're currently trying to skirmish with a bit, just kind of harass the flanks here. You can see we're already collapsing with these Chaos Knights with lances, just getting a brutal charge in here to these Orc Boys. Just watch the HP drop as they take this shock damage here. Orc Boys are a very light unit, only have 30 armor, so yeah, they're going to take quite a bit of shock damage from that charge there. Meanwhile, up against Chosen, obviously, they won't do much. Grimgor, though, will help swing that fight in their favor. That being said, I believe these guys will probably beat up on Marauders just because of their juiced up combat stats. You can see already the Penumbral Pendulum dropped across the front line there, just scything through these front line of boys, and did a little bit to those Crimson Killers. Meanwhile, in the back line, we're just kind of tying down these Orc Airboys with Marauders. They may not necessarily win because the Orc Airboys do have pretty decent combat stats, but I guess they're pretty comparable in terms of combat stats. So, yeah, we should be able to clean those guys up while taking some damage, but still, tying them down is very important. You can see it looks like a Foot of Gork going down here. It doesn't look like it was overcast, or maybe it was misaimed. It looked like the area of effect was like right in here, so it didn't actually get direct contact on these Chaos Knights with lances. If it had, it definitely would have taken them out. But we did manage to get a clean charge on that Broken Tusk Mob and break it. I unfortunately did not catch that, but at this point the Chaos Knights with lances just scything in, trying to tie down this Orc Boar Chariot to keep it from doing too much damage in the front line. You can see these Black Orcs fighting Chosen in the center. The Chosen will do relatively well here because of their massive melee defense at 60. Unless the Black Orcs have WOG, they're going to struggle to make solid contact with the Chosen there. So That's why I like bringing the Shielded Chosen, just because they have such ridiculous melee defense. They're one of the best defensive type units in the game, up there with Iron Breakers. But looks like we're popping the Fists of Gork here somewhere. I believe it's over on those Black Orcs who are getting kind of crushed by Chaos Knights with lances. We've got more Chaos Knights forming up here. You can see Grimgor and the Crimson Killa is going to be getting in here. And the Crimson Killas are a unit that is interesting. They have comparable combat stats. I mean, obviously they're a Regiment of Renown, so they'll have slightly better combat stats, but just overall, they have less unit models than a regular unit of Black Orcs. They're supposed to gain splash attacks, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really do that much for them, I don't think, considering they have significantly less HP in unit models. I think if you were to give the Crimson Killas, rather, bonus versus large, because they're a dual-wielding unit, most other Orc dual-wielding units on foot, like Savage Orc, Biggins, and the regular Biggins, they have dual wield, and they also have a bonus versus large, so it would make sense to give these guys a bonus versus large, and it would also be nice to have an AP anti-large option for the greenskins, to have this kind of elite infantry AP anti-large. I know the Beastmen have that with their Regiment of Renown that should be coming with Norska. Likewise, Bretonia does as well. So, as well, a lot of the Game 2 factions all have elite tier halberds. I mean, you think about Temple Guard, Storm Vermin, Blackguard of Nagorond, and Phoenix Guard. All are these elite tier halberds. So, it would be nice for the greenskins to be able to get a comparable unit here. You saw that Dragon Breath and just the Marauders parking in the back with the throwing axes here, finishing off those units of Black Orcs there. So yeah, the Shadow Dragon build worked out this time. The Chaos Knights with lances did very well. Definitely took some damage, but overall we were able to take things in the end. Grimgor still fighting valiantly here, but we're going to pop that Enfeebling Foe and then charge down with the Dragon here. Or I guess that sequence of events, but in reverse. Actually charge first and then pop Enfeebling Foe here. But Grimgor is going to rout to army losses, and that will be victory for Chaos. So, yeah, I mean, I was kind of giving my thoughts throughout the battle there, but in terms of the army breakdown here, you can see the Marauders overall didn't do the best. These juiced up Orc boys definitely will punch through them relatively easily. The one unit doing okay out on the flank, but the Chosen definitely holding their own. The Chaos Knights with lances as well, showing their power, both picking up an XP chevron throughout the course of the fight. They shut down that broken Tusk Mob no problem, and then just cycle charge my opponent's infantry line to death. And they also help deal with that Orc Boar Chariot, which is always useful. The Marauder Horsemen as well weren't really challenged too much in the mobility phase. My opponent didn't really go for any Goblin Cavalry. I guess he was going more for a thematic Grimgor build with only Orcs, which makes sense. But yeah, Marauders weren't really challenged too much, so they were able to just fire in unopposed. And then the Shadow Dragon Master himself, 39 kills and hardly any damage, as he was up in the air most of the time. But yeah, for my opponent, again, the Orc boys, not super cost effective, especially with chevrons. And the chevrons on the Black Orcs, I'm not sure if those were, I think he had some of those before the battle, if I remember right. Maybe silver 1 on each, potentially, but definitely some decent kills in the Black Orcs. They're a super solid infantry. Orc Air Boys can be pretty solid in this matchup too. I do like this pick quite a bit. Boar Chariots, kind of a niche thing. If you can get it to work, they can do a lot of armor-piercing damage to the front line, but you know, not an ideal pick, not a competitive pick, I would say. Broken Tusk Mob, on the other hand, are definitely a competitive pick. Unfortunately, they got shut down pretty hard here. But yeah, let's just quickly touch on a few things for the greenskins here. So if we go over to Custom Battle, and I can show you some of the issues with the Crimson Killas. I mean, if you can get them into the right situation, they'll get a lot of work done, don't get me wrong. But because they're such an expensive unit, and their HP is so much lower than a regular unit of Black Orcs, like, let's go ahead and compare. So they're 1400. They do gain significantly more melee attack and defense, slightly more weapon strength at the cost of 2000 HP. So that's the biggest issue in my eyes, is they lose the unit models, and they also lose a significant amount of HP. And for a unit that's significantly more expensive, it makes them hardly ever cost effective. It's really rough. I already said my piece about them possibly having an anti-large bonus. I think that would be a really nice niche for the greenskins. So in my eyes, you would do two things, is to either buff their HP. If you want to leave their unit models the same size, that's fine, or else buff their number of unit models up to a regular unit of Black Orcs. they give them anti-large. Then I think all of a sudden you have the a unit that has a really good niche. Maybe you remove the splash attacks as well if they're going to go up to a full-size unit of Black Orcs. But then they have the anti-large bonus. They fill that role for the green skins quite well. And yeah, you could have that kind of elite tier infantry. And the Orc Boys as well. I mean, let's go ahead and just compare them to some of the other lower tier infantry. So just 1-to-1, Marauders are significantly cheaper, and if we compare them to the Orc Boys, I mean, Orc Boys have more weapon strength and charge bonus, but they actually have worse weapon skill. And in Total War Warhammer 2, weapon skill, that is to say melee attack and defense, matters a lot more than in Total War Warhammer 1. So the fact that Orc Boys have such poor combat stats to begin with, have such poor weapon skill, if you will, they're just not going to be cost effective in hardly any matchup. I mean, again, they're a decent unit early game in campaign, especially when you can buff them up with different traits and attributes and so on. But yeah, in multiplayer, I would definitely say you could bring them at home. I would much rather say bring goblins with fanatics because, well, it takes a bit of micro, but if you can get these spinning loons fanatic casts off in armored infantry or just in any infantry blob, they'll do a surprising amount of damage. They also have the poison. I mean, they do have pretty poor combat stats as well, but they have more unit models at the very least. So yeah, those are just my 2 cents. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you like this kind of content, feel free to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. I'll try and keep it coming with more Total War Warhammer 2 content. I have missed a little bit of time. I try and do 2 videos a day. Sometimes I don't get to that. Sometimes it's 1, and sometimes I even miss a day. But I'll try and keep it coming as much as possible. Thank you very much for your support. It means a lot to me, and we'll see you next time.